Hi, everybody. Hope you're doing well. Good luck if you have your test coming up in the next week or couple of weeks. Yeah. Hopefully, this will be really helpful. So we're looking at the reading, and this is the true, false, not given, which a lot of people struggle with. It comes up in the general training and it comes up in the academic as well. So hopefully we're going to clear up some of the issues around this. Okay, and we're also going to look at some general things like reading strategies that you can use in all of the different types. Okay, so let's have a look at the reading test first of all. I'm going to put up some statements and I'd like you to tell me if they're true or false, and if they're false, can you correct them? Okay. So have a look at the first one. So that's 3 sections. Okay, very good. True. Okay, or a T. Yeah, very good. How about this one? You have 1 hour. Okay, very good. Yeah, just 1 hour, not at least 1 hour, just only 1 hour. So that's true too. Very good. Everyone's okay. And do we have 50 questions altogether? Nope, somebody said. Yeah, so the correct information would be 40 questions. Yeah, okay. All right. You have transfer time at the end of that. Yeah, okay. Again, very much definitely a note. Remember, that's only in the listening test. So when you're doing the reading test, you must write your answers on the answer sheet as you're going through. Okay, you don't have any time at the end, and nobody sees the question paper. Okay, that gets shredded immediately. So you've got to have those answers on the answer sheet. Yeah. Okay. All right, so no extra time there. Okay, so there's a progression in difficulty as you go through. Yes, as all parts of the IELTS test, then there's a progression from easier to more difficult as you go through. So the last text is longer, more complicated vocabulary, something like that. Yeah, in both cases, it doesn't make any difference whether you're doing paper-based or computer-based, it's always going to be like that. Okay, so you should spend exactly, thinking about what we just said, should you spend exactly the same amount of time on each passage? Okay, very good. We're getting there. So yeah, the first one is definitely easier. So try and spend a little bit less than 20 minutes on that one, and then you'll have a little bit more time for something that's a bit more complicated later on. Okay, so just try and work on it that way. Maybe have like 23 minutes for the last one, as a general rule. Okay, so you should go slowly and carefully read through the passage. Okay, good. Yeah, false. You do not have time to read anything carefully. So this is where the reading strategies are going to come in. It's about finding that information as quickly as you can. Okay, it's about 1 minute per question. If you think about reading the passage and checking your answers at the end, yeah, it's more or less something like that. Yeah. Don't spend more than that anyway, because then you're going to run out of time. But yeah, it's a good point, Prachi. It is going to depend on, the kinds of answers or the kinds of exercises that you find easier, more difficult, things like that. Okay. Okay, about 14 different question types. So those are exercise types. Yes, more or less. Yeah. Okay. It's generally say between 10 and 14. Some of them you can consider as being different exercises or the same, but there are a good range of exercises that you're going to have in all of the tests, basically. And you're certainly going to get matching headings, and you're certainly going to get true, false, not given in every single paper. Yeah. We'll look at the different ones in a moment. Okay. So that would work out as probably 3 or 4 exercises per passage. Yeah, absolutely. Okay, you can figure on 3 or 4 different exercises for every passage you're going to get. So, you know, you need to know all of those different question types. You need to have practiced them. You need to have a strategy for all of them. And you need to be as familiar as possible. Okay. So the information in the exercise is always going to follow the order of the passage. Got a few different answers there, but yeah, we got another nope. It's false. Okay, it will definitely depend. Exactly, Ali, not always. It could be, but it will depend on the exercise. There are some exercises, you know, where that's just not going to happen, like matching information. It couldn't possibly be in the same order. Okay. However, for true, false, not given, it will always be in the same order. Okay, so you never have to go back to find the right kind, to find the answer. Okay, and then the last one, doesn't matter how you spell your answer or whether you put a capital on that. Nope, exactly. Yeah, that's definitely not true. 100% correct spelling, you know, correct grammar, all of those kind of things. Yes, I wish it was true, Kushek. That's a very good, good point. You're a nope kind of guy. That's really good. Yeah, I wish it was true for all of you as well, because spelling is always a nightmare. But IELTS say you've got to get the spelling correct. Okay. So it's just a few general points there. So we were looking at those different types of exercises. As long as you use it in the speaking, not in the writing, that would be fine. So what kinds of exercises do you know for the reading? We've already looked at true, false, not given, matching headings. We've mentioned those. But what other types of exercise do you know? Okay, yeah, fill in the gap. Yeah, fill in sentence completion, headings, matching the headings. Yeah, multiple choice, very good. Okay, we got any others? Those are the most common ones. Yeah, filling in the summary. Matching, yeah, Prachi, I think I know, you're matching the ending of the sentence. Yeah, okay. So yeah, somebody mentioned this and we just got it down there. You know, why not, if you write everything in block capitals, then you can avoid the capitalization question. You're still going to have to get the spelling right. There's not really any way of avoiding that. So, you know, just be careful. But, you know, you are using words that are in the passage. So, you know, you do have a reference there. Okay. So let's have a look at the most common question types. So I'm not sure what you mean in birthday numbers and dates. Can you give me a more specific question? You can write them in figures. Is that what you mean? You don't have to write them out in words. You can just write them in figures. But they would still have to be, and then you don't have to spell, so that makes that easier. Okay. So I'm going to put up some different types of exercise, and I want you to fill in the missing word. So what have we got there? Okay, good. Multiple choice. Yeah. Okay. This one didn't come up. Someone just mentioned it. Yes, short answer, because you've got a question and then you just write some kind of phrase for the answer. This one we came up quite good. Sentence completion. Yeah, very good. kind of similar one would be, okay, very good, Jang, note completion. Yeah, okay, so in this case, you don't have to get the grammar right so much, it's because it's just notes that you're filling in. Then we have yes, no, not given, or true, false, not given. Yeah. What about the next one? This might be a bit trickier. We've only got one letter there. Okay, yeah, very good. Jang's very much on top of it today, yeah, and Anwar. So yeah, classification or categorization. So you've got different categories and you've got to match statements to those different categories. Okay. This one, somebody brought this one up. Okay, yeah, 2, yeah. Matching sentence ending. So first half of the sentence, second half of the sentence, you got to match. Matching the one everybody hates, matching headings, yeah, matching headings, good. And then we have kind of similar but a little bit different, we have locating. Okay, good, specific information. So that's a piece of information within a paragraph, not the overall idea of the paragraph. So be careful between those two. And then we have diagram, table, or somebody mentioned this. I think we're heading off into the writing now, guys. Focus on the reading. Table, flowchart. Thank you, Ego, and wow, flowchart completion. Okay. So yeah, it's usually a diagram. I don't know if it's ever a map, but it's usually a diagram. So those are the most common questions. And again, there are, you know, subcategories within those, but it's the same kind of strategy that you're going to use. Yeah. Okay. So which ones do you find most difficult, or which one do you find most difficult of those? All of them. Okay, we've got 8. We've got quite a few 8s and quite a few, yeah, 5s. 10 as well, actually. That's interesting. Maybe that's something we should look at, is the it's number 10. But yeah, true, false, not given, and matching headings often come up. So that's the one that we're looking at now. So the next question is why, what do you find particularly difficult about that? You know, is it locating the information? Time, okay, yeah, time is always going to be, okay, but misunderstanding or confusion. Okay, as synonyms, interesting, that's quite a good one, yeah. Okay, so time comes up quite a lot, synonyms, finding the right information, distinguishing between the different answers, okay? And specifically the false and not given, I think that's quite an issue, so that's something we're going to really look at here. Okay, so let's go just through these types and see. So what kind of question is that? The one up there. Number 1, yeah, you can just put the number, it'll be maybe a bit quicker. Yeah, so that's a multiple choice. Okay, this one is A. Changing the way of doing it. Yeah, this one is also multiple choice. So sometimes it's just one long list and then you've got to choose 2 or maybe 3 between those ones. Yeah, okay. And this one is, okay, you're getting it now, also multiple choice. So it's not always one option out of 4. It can be a long list with 2 or 3 options. Okay, what one's that? Just have a look. Oh, we got one right. Yeah, okay, we're getting it now. 7. So beginning and end of the sentences. Okay, I know it looks a little bit like matching headings, but not when you look at it more closely. Okay, what about this one? Have a look at the very first word in the question. Yeah, okay, so this is categorization, classifying the different statements. Okay. And how about this one? Okay, very good. Short answer questions. And then what about this one? Think about this one. Be quite careful that we're getting it's number 9. Okay, this is which paragraphs contain the following information. Okay, yeah, it's number 9. So you've got to be careful about that. This is quite different from matching headings. Matching headings is you've got to get the overall idea of the paragraph. But this one, you're looking just for one specific piece of information in the paragraph. So it's a detail. It's not the overall idea. It's not the gist. So be careful about that one. Yeah. How about this one? Okay. Yeah, this is sentence completion. So it is a full sentence there. And then this one would be, yeah, no, because you've got a kind of flow chart going on there. Yeah. And then here we have, yep, okay, completion, or summary completion, you might call it. And then here we have, okay, yes, this one is the matching headings, okay, the most suitable heading for each paragraph. Okay, and finally we have our old favorite, yes, yes, no, not given, or true, false, not given. Okay, so this is the one we're going to focus on today. Okay, so before we look at that one specifically, we're going to look at the different skills. So can you name any skills that you need to use for the reading test? Okay, very good, Shrawan. Skimming, Amani has it, and scanning, Neve. Yeah. Skimming and scanning, anything else? Guessing, yeah. Sometimes, yeah. So we got skimming and scanning, and yeah, paraphrases, keywords, those are also really important. Yeah, and we're going to look at those in a moment. Okay. The other one is reading carefully. Oh, very good, Amani. Or reading for detail, okay, which is usually what you do after one of the first two, okay? So what is skimming? Can someone explain skimming to me? Okay, yeah, comprehensive. Okay, we're kind of get it, but why do you skim? What do you get from skimming? Yeah, you're reading quickly. Thank you, Trang, for the general meaning. Okay, the main idea, the gist, the overview, galaxy. Thank you. Yeah. So you've got to get the main idea with skimming, as opposed to scanning. So what are you looking for when you do scanning? Okay, yeah, so you're looking for specific words, specific pieces of information, okay? And that has to be very quick. Often things like dates, things that stand out. So, you know, names, because they've got capitals, dates, numbers, they stand out. So those are very easy keywords to look for in the passage, okay? Good tip here on the scanning to stop slowing down, because if you start reading for the top, you're going to read, and that's going to actually slow you down. Start from the bottom, go up, and then you are going to find the key words. You're going to find those kind of words much faster, because it'll be like individual words rather than something that makes sense. Okay. All right, and then when you've got that information, then for some of the exercises, not all of them necessarily, but some of the exercises, you're going to need to look around that keyword and, you know, to get the deeper meaning. So for example, true, false, not given, you've got to read around the information to truly understand what they're saying, okay? So a combination of skimming and scanning and reading carefully is what you're going to need for the reading test, because all of these are going to come up, okay? And we're going to use all of these with the true, false, not given, okay? So let's have a look what we do. So it's quite a good idea. You don't want to read the whole passage, but it can be quite a good idea, you know, to get some kind of overall idea of what it's talking about and how it progresses. So how does it start? What you're going to look for. So how could you quickly get an overall idea of the passage? What would you need to look at to get an overall idea? Okay, very good. Olio, title, yeah. Okay, yes, good. So like maybe the first sentence in each paragraph, yeah. That generally has the key information, and it helps you get an idea of the order or the layout of the answer, yeah. Okay. I'm not sure, is Esther okay? He keeps talking about deep breaths. I don't know if he's having like hyperventilating or something, but I'm not sure what's quite yet. Yeah, so just a couple of minutes very quickly. Yeah, look at the topic sentence, very good. And a good point, Jirang, if there's a picture or some kind of diagram, that's a very quick way of getting information and can really help, particularly if it's about some species of animal or something like that, that you might not be familiar with. Okay, so yeah. Read the title, and if there's any subheadings, use those as well. And that's, of course, going to give you the most general idea of what we're talking about here. Also, just having a very quick skim through the questions will also, you know, will give you an idea of the kind of information that's in the passage. And it will also tell you the kinds of exercises that you're going to need to be looking at. Okay, so but very quickly doing that. And then, as a lot of you said, very importantly, skimming the topic sentence. That's the first sentence in each paragraph. Really helps you to get an idea of what they're talking about, really helps you to get an idea of where they're going in each part. And then that's going to enable you to find the information much more quickly, okay? And maybe a couple of keywords that you can find very easily in that paragraph as well, okay? And, you know, again, just maybe underline or highlight in some way those keywords so that you know what you're looking for, okay? So very quick. The topic sentence is the first sentence in each paragraph. And it generally tells you what that paragraph is going to be about, okay? It's everything should be related to the topic sentence. It's why when we talk about the essay, the writing task 2, we talk about topic sentences, because it's very important to highlight what you're going to talk about in that paragraph, okay? All right, so this is just a quick thing to do at the end, just to get a very general idea of what that passage is about, okay? So if we look at this, this is what the, it always looks like, the true, false, not given question. So we've got true, false, not given in the table, and then we've got a series of statements, okay? Sometimes it's yes, no, not given. So what's the difference between those? What's the difference between true, false, not given and yes, no, not given? No difference. No, there is a difference. Okay, opinion and fact. And wow, very good. True, false, not given is what you get when you have a factual article. It's just pure factual scientific information. And yes, no, not given is when you have an opinion piece. So you've got the writer's opinion. Very important as part of your preparation to read both types of articles, okay? Because you will see both of them. And the opinion ones are a little bit trickier, okay? However, so it's the same strategy for both of them, but make sure you use the right abbreviation or the right word. If you write yes when it's a true, false, not given rather than true, it will be marked incorrect, okay? So you must write true or false for true and false, yes, no for yes, no, okay? You can use an abbreviation. Yes, you can write TFNG, that's fine. but make sure that you're getting the right one, because sometimes people think they can do either because it's the same thing, but that's not true. Okay. So let's look at those differences. So true tends to be the easier one of the three. So if the information in the passage is the same, if it agrees with the information in the question, then it's true. Okay. So same information, different words. Okay. False, it has to be contradictory. So that means the two pieces of information could not both be true. They contradict each other. Exactly, Jason. There's a conflict between them. One is right, one is wrong. Okay, there is no way that they can both be correct. All right. Now, not given means that you cannot say whether it is true or false. It's just different information. Okay. So I know that's the tricky one between false and not given, but if you're not sure, then ask yourself, could they both be true? If the answer is yes, they could both be true, they're just different, then you're going to put not given. We're coming to the examples, but I want to make sure you've got this first. Yeah, so not given means it could be true, we don't know. Okay, false means 100%. They cannot both be true. They are contradicting each other. Okay, all right. So let's move on and have a look at the practice. So a few simpler ones here. So let's look at the example. So if you look at those, all teachers like to help people and most teachers like to help people. Would you say that was true, false, or not given? I'll give you a bit more time. Yes, okay, it's false. All and most, they cannot both be true. Most is not all, so this one has to be false. Okay, so those modifiers are a little bit different there. Okay, and yeah, exactly, Joanne, it is not the same. They cannot both be true. So pay attention to modifiers, because that's quite a very common way of tricking you in this one, to have things like all, always, never, sometimes, usually. Those are the kinds of things. Yeah, okay. It's the little words, usually you don't think of them as being key words, but actually in the true, false, not given, they are generally the most important words. Okay, so look out for those types of words. Okay. All right, what about this one? Is this true, false, or not given? Oh, here we got everything coming up there. Okay, it's true. Okay, so she's British, she comes from London, same subject, same information. Okay, so the second one must be true for the first one. Okay, she's British, she comes from London. Okay. It's a paraphrase, yeah, it's just a different way of saying the same information. Okay, yes, but it's not false. It's not that the only place she can come from is London, but if she's British and she comes from London, then it's true. It's not different information. Okay, I'm not quite sure why that's, yes, she could be, but it's not an example. It's just that if she's from London, she's British, that's the same information. Okay. Okay, that's a good point, Harry. We're going to look at that in a moment. Let me show you the next one and then maybe you'll see that. Okay, is that one true, false, or not given? Think about it, think about it. Okay, I think we're getting there. I'm not sure what NT is. Yes, okay, so in this case, she might be from London. That doesn't mean that she's British, okay? But she might be, so we can't tell from this information, okay? It's different when it's the other way around, okay? If she's British, she comes from London, it's the same information. It's not that any other information would be wrong, but it is the same information. In this case, we don't know. but it's also not false because they can both be true. They could be not true. You can't really tell. Okay. Okay, good, Tulio. I'm glad that that works. Okay, good. All right. So this car is the best and this car is the most expensive. Okay, good. Okay. Ooh, yeah, we're getting there. Okay, it's just different information. Okay, but it's not false. It's just different. It could be the best and the most expensive, but it's not necessarily. Okay, you can't say that it's not true information. You don't know. Yeah, yes, she comes from, not she lives in, she comes from. Okay. So this car is the best, this car is the most expensive. They're not contradicting each other. They're not the same. So they're not true, they're not false, it's not given. Okay, and Jesse, ask yourself, could it be true? Okay. And the thing is, it could be true. The car could be the best car and it could be the most expensive car. Okay, we just don't know because it's different information. Yeah, we're coming to more examples. It's okay. Yeah, it's not like best, worst, or expensive, cheap. Those are contradictions. Quality and price, as I think we all know, do not necessarily go hand in hand. It could be cheap and really good. It could be expensive and very poor. Okay, does that make sense? All right, so ask yourself, could it be true? And if the answer is yes, it could be true, but I don't know, then that is not given. Okay, that's the really, really key information. Okay, so we were going to look a lot more examples now, but that's just to get you the idea there. Okay, so, you know, we don't know, as I said. Okay, so if it's not clear, if you don't know, then it's not given. Okay, so let's look at these more specific ones. So this is an actual passage. Oh gosh, this is taking a long time. So keywords. If you look at number 1, what are the keywords in number 1? Okay, very good, Noof. Could be, but I have no proof. That's a very nice way of thinking about it. Okay. Yeah, Aries is definitely, and yeah, Middle Ages. Okay. So they've got capitals. That means they're very easy to see. Okay, children and adults and work, that is the overall topic of the passage. So that's not really a key word because you're going to see children, adults and work all the way through the passage. So it's not really going to help you. Yeah, okay. What about number 2? Okay, yeah, Sat Krishna's already there. I think unloved is a good one. And yeah, Middle Ages, okay? And yeah, and I think unloved would be useful. But Middle Ages is going to get you to the right place, first of all, okay? Not working children, that's not a key word because that is in all of the options, okay? Remember, you're looking for the word that differentiates this statement from the other one, okay? So anything with a capital letter, because those are very easy to find in the passage and generally they're the same. You know, you don't have to find synonyms. Dates and numbers are also very easy to find in the passage. And anything that's very specific might be sometimes, you know, like technical information. But it's not the general topic of the passage. Is not going to help you because you're going to find that everywhere. Remember, you're trying to locate the information at the moment. Okay, yes, everyone's going to go through. So yes, scientists, overwork and damage the health. Okay, those are all going to be specific to one part of it. And in the last one, yeah, trade unions, 19th century. Again, quite likely to be the same or something very similar to that. Okay, so those words that are going to help you locate the information in the text. Okay, all right, moving on. What about here? what would you say? What's kind of technical information here? Yeah, okay, so the date, yeah, and half-time schools, because that's something very specific that we're looking at here. Number 6. Okay, good, 20th century. So again, we're looking at a different time zone, so that will help you. Okay, and yeah, and full-time schedule, because again, that's very specific. And how about in number 7? Okay, very good. Yeah, nowadays, again, change of timeline. Okay, differentiated, categorized, and old. Okay, so keywords, words that are easy to find and words that are going to help you differentiate the different parts of the passage. Okay, not the words which are general to the whole passage. They are not going to help you find the information. Okay. So let's now go through one by one, okay? So we're looking at the first one, and here we have the passage, or part of the passage. So just have a look through. Can you find the name Aries and the Middle Ages quite close together? You can just say yes or no, you don't have to tell me. Yeah, okay, so we've got, yeah. We've got Aries and we've got the Middle Ages. So if you've got 2 keywords, try and find them very close together, okay? Because one or other might appear in other places, okay? So we know where we're looking. We're looking in this part of the passage, okay? So now we found the right information. Now we need to read it very carefully to see if it's going to be the same or contradictory, or we can't tell. Okay, okay, very good. So why are you saying false? What's the information that's telling you that? Just give me a couple of keywords. Yeah. Okay, very good. Yeah. Okay, so we have no distinction between children and adults. Okay, so that must be very different to, we've got different types and then we've got no distinction. So we're just looking for synonyms that are going to help us. Okay, that is going to be the other key strategy after you find the keywords, is the synonyms. So they're using words, synonyms that mean the same, or is it the opposite? Okay. All right, then we've got the second one. So now we know that we've already found the answer there, which is highlighted in the green. So we're going to move on from there. We can't be going back because everything's in the same order. Okay, so we're going to look at here. So we were talking about the word unloved. Can you find some words in the passage which have a similar kind of meaning to unloved? Okay, very good. All right, so it means, it does not mean that children were neglected, forsaken, or despised. Okay, so it's the opposite information. Unloved, not neglected, not forsaken. Those two are contradictory. Okay, you can't be loved and unloved. You have to be one or the other. Okay. All right, so the next one. So now we're moving down again to the next few paragraphs. So where can you find some synonyms? So names and dates are likely to be exactly the same in the 2 passages, but other keywords are likely to be synonyms, okay? So can you find the synonyms for those words that are highlighted? Okay, good. Yeah, we've got long hours, okay, interfere, okay, very good. Yeah, long hours, interfere with. And here we've got a study. So we're not talking about scientists, but we're talking about studies. So it's kind of like a paraphrase. Okay, so we know we're in the right place. Okay, so overwork might damage the health. Okay, very good. Yeah, so it's exactly the same. Early deprivations influencing children's development. Okay, very good. All right. Now we need to keep going down. So can you find either those words or synonyms for those words? Okay, where are we looking? Yeah, we've actually got the word trade unions. Yeah, and we've got the 19th century as well. So we've got exactly the same words because they're quite technical. They don't usually have synonyms. Okay. Now, whoa, slow down a bit. Slow down a bit, guys. They're both talking about contribution. Yeah. Okay. What kind of contribution are they talking about in the question? Don't just put the, okay, good. Us majorly contributed. Okay. So they contributed a lot. What does it say in the passage about the contribution? Yeah, they also contributed. Okay. So it says that they also contributed. Does it say that they contributed in a big way? No, it doesn't. Does it say that they contributed only very slightly or in a very small way? No, it doesn't. Okay, it doesn't say that. It just said they contributed. Okay, so yes, I think we're getting there. So is it true, false, or not given? Okay, guys, good. Yeah. Okay, this is not given. Okay, you cannot tell whether it was a big contribution or a small contribution. It only says that it was that they contributed. Okay, can't say it's false because it doesn't say exactly, Jason, you can't tell. It doesn't say they only contributed a small amount, which would be false. If they used a synonym for a lot, then that would be true, but they don't use any of those, so it's not given. Okay, it could be true, we don't know. All right, okay. Yeah, exactly, Tulio. It's often, like we said, it's the modifiers, okay? Those are really, really key, and they're the ones that are going to trick you, okay? So it's the difference between a major contribution and a contribution, and we don't know the size of it. Yeah, it's a big trick, okay? But you got to ask yourself, could it be true? Yeah, that's the difference. But it's not false because it's not a contradiction, okay? So yeah, so these kinds of traps, like we said, the modifiers, so you know, a lot, a little, a few, always, everybody, all, sometimes, always, never. Yeah, sometimes it's negative, sometimes it's none of them or few of them. So all of those kinds of words are actually going to be really key. Yeah, also the modal verbs, no, that's a very good point. You must do something, you should do something, you can't do something. So those little words that you wouldn't often pay attention to are absolutely key when it comes to these questions. Yeah. Okay, let's maybe go through these a little bit more quickly. So just go through those, see if you can find the information, and do you think it's true, false, or not given? Think about...
Sorry, Annelie, I just wanted to say there's no rush for questions. If people do want to ask questions, they can add them to the Q&A. I'll do my best to answer them via the chat.
Okay.
You can carry on presenting, so don't feel like you have to...
All right, okay, perfect.
Okay, cool.
All right, good. Okay, so can we find the halftime schools and something like that's like in the middle of the 19th century? Okay, yeah, second paragraph. Okay, very good. So halftime schools, that's kind of like a technical word, so that's not going to change. But actually here we've got 1840s, which is more or less in the middle of the 19th century. Okay, so we know we're in the right area. So what's the answer? Okay, very good. Okay, so we have a total contradiction there between most, okay, and never attended school. So a significant proportion of children never attended school. So it's, yeah, middle of the 19th century. It's just a weird way of doing it, but it's true. So we've got a complete contradiction here between most people going to school and a significant proportion not going to school. Okay, so it's absolutely contradictory. They can't both be true. Okay. All right, let's keep going. Then again, we're moving down a little bit more. So we're going to look more or less in the same area. So we've got, in this case, instead of saying in the 20th century, we've got by the end of the 19th century. Okay, very good. Yeah, end of the 19th century. So they were going on a full-time schedule. Okay, guys, very good. I think we're getting the idea. Okay, so it doesn't mention full-time, so we don't know. Okay, but it doesn't say that it was half-time, so we can't say it's false. There's no indication of it being contradictory. There's no indication of what kind of schedule they were there on, so it's not given. Okay, all right, very good. Yeah, different information, basically. Okay, all right, and then we'll move on to the last few. So these kind of words, they're not, you know, dates and names, they're not technical. So it's highly likely that we're going to be looking for synonyms here. Okay. So if you can you find some words that are, okay, yeah, very good. Can you find anything like differentiated and categorized? Okay, good. So we've got needs, that's the same. We've got organized rather than differentiated, and we've got age. Okay, so yeah, and separated out. Okay, so we know we're in the right area. So is it true, false, or not given? Yeah. Okay, very good. Same information, just using the synonyms. Okay, but all of the information there is exactly the same. Okay, all of those words there. So just to go through it again, and then we can do some questions. So get a general idea. This is true for the passage, actually, for all of the exercises in the passage. Get a general idea by reading topic sentences, headings, looking at diagrams. Scan through to find the key words, the words with capitals, the dates, technical information. Then you'll find your information, or it might be a synonym. Then read carefully, check the answer, think about those small words that are really important in this case: negatives, modifiers, frequency, all of those kind of words. And remember, for it to be false, it has to be a contradiction. They cannot both be true. But if they could both be true, they're just different, like best and most expensive, then you're looking at not given. Okay.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Annelie, for that, and well done for getting through. Oh, there was a lot of questions and reading to do there. So yeah, nice one. And yeah, well done, guys. I hope that's helped you get a better understanding of true, false, not given questions. We know, you know, it's a question type that many students find challenging. So hopefully that's helped to clarify it a little bit for you. So guys, I can see you've put a lot of questions in the Q&A. We do have a bit of time to discuss them just now. Before we do that, I would just like to mention a couple of things that we offer on our website as paid services. One is a writing video course called IELTS Explained, which we've launched recently, and it's a series of video lessons which take you through each test on our website, explaining different strategies, how to tackle different types of question, and how to find the correct answers in the different tests on our site. So if you're interested in that, you can find it on our website. I will put the link to that in the chat. And we also have a speaking and writing evaluation service as well, which you can use to get feedback on your speaking, on your writing, your strengths and your weaknesses, and what you can do to improve your band score. So I've put the links to them in the chat. Please check them out and take a look. Some of you were asking about the recording for this webinar, and that will be available on our YouTube channel. Should be up tomorrow, so you can watch back and review anything you might have missed from this session. So yeah, I think we've got a few minutes. We can take a look at some of these questions. Guys, there were a lot of questions about the computer-based test in IELTS. So I've been answering like 100 questions about the computer-based. I think we might need to organize a webinar just focusing on the computer-based test and what the difference is. I can see a question from Gloria about how big is the computer screen.
Oh dear, I think we lost Jamie. Okay, let me try and carry on.
Am I back?
Yeah, you're back.
go ahead, Annelie.
No, go ahead. Sorry, it's going to get confusing. Go ahead.
Sure.
The computer screen we were talking about.
Yeah. I've read that the computer screen is split into two. So one side will have the questions and the other side will have the passage. So it's quite easy to scroll through, and you should be able to see everything quite easily on there. Okay. Let's see. What other questions do we have? Okay, this is another question about the computer-based, Annelie. Trang is asking, when I do the listening test, does it automatically change to the next section, or do I have to click the mouse to change it myself?
Oh, that's a good question. Certainly the timing is going to be fixed. Yeah, so it's automatic. It has to be automatic. Yeah, because otherwise you would have people taking different amounts of time. So it's going to go through exactly automatically so that you'll have exactly the same time that people do when they do the paper-based test, where it's all one audio, basically, all the way through.
Yeah, I imagine you'll be able to skip back through the questions as you would in the paper-based one. I don't think the questions will automatically jump, but we can find that out for you, and we'll double check this when we do have our webinar on computer-based. We'll be able to let you know. Okay, so question here from Parisa on the reading. They are asking, is it better to read all the questions and then read the passage, or should we focus first on the passage?
It actually depends on the exercise. So for example, if you're doing matching headings, you would want to read paragraph A first in the passage. You'd want to then summarize that in your own head, get your own title, and then you would go back to the given ones and try and match your idea to one of the ones there. So in that case, you would want to go to the passage first. It's always a good idea, though, like we were saying here, to just get a very general idea of what the passage is about, because it just makes everything easier. Then you're not sort of shocked by the information. But different exercises will require different ways of looking at it.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think we have time for one more question, which many of you had, is time management in the reading test. So some students say that they run out of time when they're trying to complete the third passage. So they're wondering, should they start with the third passage, or, should you start with the easiest passage? Any advice for kind of managing time in the reading test?
Well, one thing I would do is, do lots of practice tests and try different ways because, with those kind of things, it's often a personal choice. So, try starting from the first one. How does that go? Try starting from the last one. Does that make your timing easier? Or, is it kind of, disturbing because it's the harder questions? I think a couple of things is if you, try and spend a little bit less time on the first one, like we said. And also don't spend too long on any one question. It's easy to kind of get trapped in one question and, just looking and looking for the answer and you can't find it. You can always go back. So, just move on. If it's not kind of coming pretty quickly, move on to the next one, move on to the next one. Because if you don't get to that next exercise, which might even be quite an easy exercise, you're going to lose all of those points.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, fantastic. Thank you for that, Annelie. I'm afraid that we have run out of time for today's session, so we'll have to wrap up there. Apologies if we didn't manage to answer your question in this session. You can send them in to us via our YouTube channel. You can also write them on our Facebook page as well, and we'll do our best to get back to you then. In the meantime, please check out the recording of this on our YouTube channel. If you can give us a like and a subscribe, that helps us to keep offering these webinars for free. And yeah, thank you very much for joining us today. If you've got your test coming up soon, then best of luck to you, okay? Let us know how you get on. It's always good to know, how students do based on, especially if you can put some of the things we've been talking about into practice. So we hope it helps you. I can see that's from Trang. Your test is on the 24th. You've got 2 days. Best of luck.
and in Durfee too. So really good luck to you as well. Yeah, both of you will be thinking about you. Yeah.
Definitely. Cool. Excellent, guys. Best of luck to you. We'll hopefully see you again in another webinar soon. Okay. Cheers, guys. Thanks very much, Annelie. We'll see you soon.
Thanks, Jamie. Bye, everybody. Bye-bye. Bye. Bye-bye. Take care, guys. Bye-bye.
Okay. Oh.
Jamie, you're still there.
Still here, yeah. My
Thanks, Durfee. I don't have any power over this.
Sure.
Should we have dinner together?
Hopefully this time. 3, 2, 1. See you guys. Bye.